Guten Abend, liebe Zuschauerinnen und Zuschauer. Wir sind jetzt live wieder. Wir haben heute bei uns John Beaulieu, Vicky, Dodd, Gemella, Baldini, die großen Soundhealer auf der Welt. Wir sind extrem glücklich, dass das heute Abend geklappt hat. Wir fühlen uns geehrt, dass Sie bei uns sind. Und wir sind gespannt, was die Diskussion heute mit Ihnen ergibt. Da Sie alle aus Amerika kommen und Gemella aus Russland und Englisch spricht, werden wir jetzt auf Englisch wechseln. And we will talk in English with the greatest sound healer the world have. We are very honored you are here with us. It's a great pleasure to have you here. And we just started before we went live the question, what is sound? And John gave us a definition of what is sound. And could you please give this definition also to all the people who are now watching this video?
I'll see if I can do it. Sound, basically sound is, I like to say it's the building blocks, it's the fundamental denominator of all music. But sound itself is greater than music. And music is sound that's appreciated, that we appreciate. And sound itself really has no meaning. Vibration has no meaning. Sound has no meaning. We give sound meaning. So if we hear a sound we really like, we might say that's music. Or we might say, that's the sound of the ocean or a waterfall. I like that sound. But somebody else could hear the same sound and not like it. So we also say, and it's the same thing in music. You could hear a particular type of music, like you'd hear Chopin, you say, I love Chopin, it's such beautiful music. But when I was in India, I once played some Chopin on the piano that just happened to be a piano. And people went crazy. They said the piano was the devil's instrument. That's terrible music. So, in other words, it's music for one person, not for another. Rock and roll is music for some people, not for other people. But underneath rock and roll, underneath Chopin, underneath raga is this sound. And sound itself is everywhere, but we are the ones that give it meaning. So we would say that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I'd say that beauty and sound's in the ear of the beholder. And therefore it's up to us to make all sounds. It's possible that we can make all sound music. We could find beauty, and that's that which we don't like. If we listen mindfully and correctly, we could find beauty in that and music in that. So I would like to say all sound has the potential to become music in our ears.
That's a very interesting point of view. In the interview, you told us also that you will put into your meditation sounds like a beep tone from a door who is closing.
Oh, actually, one of my favorite sounds to meditate on is the drills of my dentist on my teeth.
No.
Yes. My dentist actually tells me that my dentist turns out he's also a very good musician too. He's with a group called Prana. He's a good singer, good musician, but he's also a great dentist. And when he puts those drills and I hear them at high pitched, I think it's like the best approving whistling vessels going through my brain. And again, it's my relationship to the sound that makes it different. You understand? I relate to the sound differently than somebody else could relate to the same sound. Mm-hmm. And then I have less pain, I have less anxiety, I have less whatever it may be, and I could just relax and I enjoy my dinner. I enjoy it like I would a concert. It is a concert to me. Mm-hmm. Because it's the same with sounds of car horns or sounds of beep, beep, beeps in the airport, of trucks going by. But we first have to ask yourself, am I safe? Because part of the brain called the amygdala says, are you safe? So I look around in an airport, if I hear a beep, 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 I say, I'm sitting in my chair, I'm not going to be run over by the transport truck, I'm safe. So I close my eyes and I meditate on the beep, beep, beep. and I listen to it mindfully, and I have a relationship with that sound, that it becomes like a mantra to me, and I could hear that beep, beep, beep in different parts of my brain even. I know the anatomy, so I could trace every beep into an area of my brain, usually near the third ventricle, and becomes a great meditation. Yeah, well, you understand, I'm meditating, but the person next to me is getting ready to start a political fight and agenda over noise in the airport.
Yeah. Yeah. I find it great because
Yep.
it's taking all sound out of a value and
Yep.
evaluate if it's disturbing, not disturbing, if it's good, if it's not good.
Yes, that's basically it. Yeah.
So you say you can feel comfortable with each sound.
Yes. Now, obviously, if somebody is, dropping a bomb next to you or something like that, there could be, you would have to. Well, the way I put it is like sound in yoga. If you look at the muscles of your ear, you'll find they're very much like the muscles in your arm that move, the joint like this that move, the hammer and the stirrup. And so I think of Nada yoga. I think of it as the stretching of the ear, that one could do a hatha yoga of your ear. So if I could sit and listen to beep, beep, beeps at the airport, that's like stretching to touch my toes, whereas somebody else could only stretch and touch their knees. So it's a matter of, if you're open to it, if you relax, just like you would a yoga pose, you can learn to stretch your ears to appreciate sounds in the airport, car horns, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't take somebody for healing and say, let's go to the airport and listen to beep, 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 any more than I'd take someone who couldn't touch their toes in yoga and say, let me shove you down to your toes. I wouldn't do that. Yeah. But for me, part of sound healing is not only, I call it neurocoherence, but neuroplasticity. So the concept of listening to beep, beep, beeps in the airport is what's called neuroplasticity. But if someone needed healing, I want them to have neurocoherence first. Then we have to develop and expand our ability to listen to lots of different sounds. That makes more neural network possibilities. It makes us more flexible human beings, just as yoga would make us more flexible.
Yeah. So it's the training where you get there where you are now.
Exactly. Yeah.
The two ladies, what do you mean of sound and value, and the answer of John? Like you first, Vicky, to say something?
Well, I just was really enjoying what John was saying. And what is sound? Well, I started using the word sound because I agree with everything he just said. So I started using the word sound to describe what I was doing in the late 60s. And it was sort of a mistake, because when I would say sound, it was what I perceived when I hear sound is that I perceive in geometries, I perceive in color, sense. I just noticed that they were just different frequencies of sound, but it was all sound to me. As that was how I learned sound, was literally through nature. As a child, that was how I learned. I tried to match what I was hearing from the frequencies of nature. And I agree that so much about what we consider good sounds or bad sounds is my opinion of it, my nervous system of it. So it can also tell me how healthy is my nervous system. If everything is like, am I blocking it? Can I just let it come in? Am I listening linearly, or am I listening in terms of the shape of my cochlea? Am I listening in terms of a slight spiral? Can I let it curve into me instead of, that's, going into that fight or flight type listening. And mainly it's so much about judgment. Nearly everything is about my judgment of it. That's good, that's bad, I can't just have it be what it is, and So I love about the hatha yoga of the ear. I like that, John, a lot. And because yeah, it is. It's can I just listen to it? Can I let it come in? Can I trust? Have I cultivated a deeper trust in my being that I'm going to be all right? I work with so many people. I've been a practitioner for over 50 years of working one-on-one with folks, and so many of us do not have that. We don't trust that it's going to be all right. And so we have to, like he was. I love these. I'm not going to try to get somebody to the floor if they can't get even to. Maybe they can't even bend this far, because of so much trauma and drama. And the little nervous system is just wound up. And so first I need to help people come into that parasympathetic possibility, or that they have that range. They have the choice. They have the choice of just receiving. Yeah, so I'm in the United States right now, and we know a lot about that at this moment. But actually, I don't think we're that isolated from the rest of the world. But that tiger on your tail. And so I'm just grateful that I was an activist for many, many years. And I went to jail all the time. And I love those sounds. And I know how necessary they are. I know how necessary they are. But there's a lot of, we're looking really at fear as well. It's so prevalent. Can I listen from fear, or can I listen from trust? And that's an inside job. And that took a lot of cultivation. I mean, I'm grateful that one of the people that because John mentioned this earlier, John Cage, I'm grateful that was one of my heroes, my mentors, because that was how I heard things, So it's always wonderful when you hear somebody in terms of music or in terms of sound that you can identify with. You go, oh, okay, I can follow this path. I can trust the path I'm following. I can trust the path I'm listening to. And we need good mentors that give us a range, a possibility, instead of saying, this is a healing sound. That always blew me away. I've been in this field for a long time. When someone says, this is a healing sound, I don't know any sound that hasn't the possibility of being healing. It's just my opinion of it, and it's according to who it is, who I am at that moment.
So
Yeah.
you don't have, there are some very specific healing sound who works for everybody.
I think, no, I don't believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's from being a practitioner. If I'm looking at just a generic concept, I would say, yes, these sounds are very healing. But somewhere along the line, I think around somewhere in the mid 80s or late 80s, we kind of decided that healing music was sort of like music or something. We couldn't have any dissonance, And there's a lot of dissonance. It's sort of like, again, John saying he's playing the piano in India and they're going, whoo, Chopin, no, So again, I have to look culturally, and I come from the Ozarks, so my roots were always a little bit, they had a little bit of a edge to them, and the language had a little edge to it, because the culture had a lot of edge to it. It could have benefited by a little bit more rounded corners. They didn't have that kind of comfort. So again, it's certain how you learn to live with the beep, beep, beep. Some people learn how to live with dissonance and find it very comforting. I don't know if I'm making any sense here to you.
Mm-hmm. Do you mean also, Gemella, that you can live with each sound?
I think that if I have a nervous system that is mended enough, that is resilient enough, that if I have an inner trust that there's something possibly, that if I trust that it's more than about my personality, my likes and my dislikes, if I trust that there is a a soul in me that goes on and on and on, and that has lived through many, many, many forms. So I'm talking about an inner spiritual work that that is an unending. What was your question? That last question.
I like now also not to know from Gemella if it's possible for you also to live with each sound, because you have another way. You went also to the Tibetan monks to learn mantra singing.
Yeah, a little bit. You know, for me now at the stage where I am, speaking about sound in general, I'm even more interested in the sound we can't actually hear. Because what we are speaking right now is the sound which is within our vibrational range, within our perceptional range. So when we say, okay, we can live with this sound and this sound, we are talking about sound which we can hear, the audible one. Can we live with the audible sound? And in general, I think that yes, we can live with any audible sound, but we have to keep in mind at the same time that there are sounds which kind of sustains our form or doing harm to our form, and we all know that. For example, let us live at a very noisy place for years and years and years in a very busy, noisy city. Yes, we can get accustomed to the sound, but I do think that in the long range, probably, if we do not work, if we do not make our, so to say, spiritual job, we can end up with a permanent damage to our form. If we, for example, keep going to the hard rock concerts, we can end up with a permanent damage to the form. Because if we keep in mind constantly that sound is what literally keeps us informed. So we have to be at certain stage of our development very careful about what we are taking in. Because if we are taking something in, at some point of our life, we will become and translating it out. And so we can translate the whole form, or we can translate the form which is kind of shrinking, diminishing. And, you know, for example, I'm very convinced that, for example, aging comes with sound as well. Because if we take something inside, it changes our, you know, inner information, and the information, the DNA, is not recreated in the same form, in the same sequence it used to be. For example, put someone in the hard rock concert for many years, be very sure that DNA will be damaged in the long run. It is, I'm absolutely sure about that. So can we live with sound? Yes, if we are already so developed that we can keep our sound intact. And it is possible, actually, in a very high vibrational range. If you are a high vibrational being, you don't even resist. It's not necessary. You don't make a resonance with a sound which is defective or destructive sound. You live in such a high realm that this, you know, destructive sound cannot touch you. The same story about poison, for example. You can ingest any poison at some stage of your development. If you are really, really high vibrational being, you can drink poison. It will it will make nothing to your system. You will never get, you know, ill. You will never get poisoned. You know this famous Indian legend about Shiva, the god Shiva, who drank all the poison in the world, and the only damage he had, his neck became blue. That is why in all the, you know, sacred images, the neck of the Shiva is always blue, because at some time of his life, he just ingested the whole poison of the world. It did him no harm, but his neck turned blue. This is a very nice image. So I think that yes, we can survive with any kind of sound if we do not go into resonance with the sound which is well, destructive to our form. But you know, for me, the most interesting thing begins when we move outside our perceptual range. This is where the magic truly begins for me. I think that there are sounds we cannot hear. Some animals can hear them, we can't. And so when we move into the range, there is something which kind of moves into the range, goes through the human vibration range, and moves out of the range. And the sound which fascinates me is the sound which creates form. I think this, you know, when I say sound, mostly I think blueprint. When I see form, I always keep thinking, okay, so I see something which is manifested, what's behind? What is the blueprint which is behind? Because, you know, sound in some way represents also time and timelines. And when you see something, some form which is alive especially, you just keep thinking, okay, this is a mystery of sound. This is a mystery of recreating form year after year, day after day, you know, minute after minute. This is the sound you can't hear, but you can see. This is for me the most interesting and the most fascinating part of our, you know, sound talk. Yeah, it is like that.
I'm loving what I'm hearing, and you're really you really struck me right now, because yes, I do think that I have spent decades with a mantra going on 24 hours a day. You know, I spend a lot of time with that silent hum in my body to be able to hold my molecular structure in a present position, not as a fixed position. So I absolutely agree with what you're saying, and Gemella. And it's really hard. This is such a huge conversation, because anything that I say one moment, the next moment I go, well, yeah, but it could be this way as well, because it is all those ways. It is all those ways. I enjoyed, I mean, and I live in a very, I'm very grateful right now, because I live in a very small area of the world on the Olympic Peninsula. And so I'm not in those big cities like I spent so many years. And it's a very different experience of having just listening to nature most of the time. So, but I know the memory. I'm not like, I know, you know, I'm grateful that I have this opportunity in these years to be doing what I'm doing, and to be able to keep mending and softening, that I don't have to be so alert to sound in that way. So thank you.
Yeah, I liked it too. But I asked a little different perspective, in that all outer sounds mindfully listened to lead to inner sound, and that all sound comes in octaves, and therefore if you listen to any outer sound is a mantra, and if you listen to it correctly, it will bring you deeply into your inner self. And basically I could listen, and then we come to the clinical question, which is, what is that person able to listen to? You know, how can we evaluate that person and determine what sound externally we want to work with them with? As I said before, it's true that I could listen to beep, beep, beeps, and I'm okay with that. But if I'm in the hospital and I'm working with patients, I don't think that I'm going to open the window and have everybody outside honk horns to make them better. You know, so that's why I said this is the difference between neurocoherence and neuroplasticity. And whether or not you take it at a physical level, at a mystical level, at, you know, at a homeopathic vibrational level, at a level of deep silence is filled with sound. This is though external silence, external world is filled with sound. All those sounds are the same sound, as far as I'm concerned. Where you start, where you begin, what's up, what's down, what's inside, what's outside is irrelevant in the world of vibration. It's a multidimensional space filled with all kinds of possibilities that we make up. We create direction, we create momentum, we create whatever it may be. We just make it up. So when you listen to anything, that could be a color with your eyes, you can listen to it. It could be a car horn. It could be a smell in the air. When you listen, and you're listening with your ears, so to speak, you listen with your skin, you listen with your whole self, that will always lead you to the divine, always. There is no such thing as to me, it's no such thing as any sound in the world that's not a mantra that will not lead you to the divine, whether that is external, internal. I don't even make a difference anymore. I could find enlightenment in the sound of a beep, beep, beep. I could find it in the sound of C and G tuning forks. It's everywhere. If one just can manage, as we say, get your nervous system unwound enough to trace it, to follow it, to be with it. So in yoga, the word yoga means everything is unified. The moment there's something that's not unified, you're no longer practicing in the unified field. So whatever we call good or bad, up, so on, the bad is part of the unified and the good is part of the unified. How we make something good and how we make something bad is up to us. Nobody else. If I walk into, like I say, if I walk into a hospital, it's not about me, it's about the other person. So I have to ask, how far can they stretch? Where's their nervous system at? What can they do? That's what makes a difference between sound healing and being a musician. A musician and a composer, you can just go in, play, stretch people's ears. Stravinsky, people walked out on him for the Rite of Spring. They thought he was crazy. John Cage, people think he's nuts, and so on. But they're composers. They're not healers. But if you're a healer, it's very different. If you're a healer, you walk in, you say, what can this person integrate into their nervous system? What can I give them that would be the best thing for them possible to allow them to have a state of neurocoherence, a state of coherence, where they can get stronger and stronger and stronger. And the stronger they get, it's like the more you stretch them. That's the goal. That would be the healing goal. That's the goal I would follow.
May I say something, Andrea?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would like to actually refer to John because, I always remember, John, what you told us at the seminar, that when the patient comes into your room, he has to go out stronger than he came in. And this is just, it is just stuck into my mind. It's just written in the big red letters in my mind somewhere. And this is maybe the most important key and the most important thing which I always keep in mind. So thank you so much for that. Yeah,
because it's not about what I can do, it's about what my patient can do. And I have to be big enough to allow them to take many steps, versus me trying to push them to what I think is it's the same thing as me going to the gym, and I'm 72 years old now. And I go to the gym and I get a 24-year-old trainer who thinks that I should do X, Y, Z, and I leave the gym and I can't walk for a week, because they push me too far. So it's always that question of how much do we give? How can we evaluate the other and work with them in a way that it integrates for them, even though for us it's like baby steps, right? But for them it could be a big thing.
And how do you make this to see how far you can go and how you can make this specific patient stronger?
Well, I watch the person's body for one. I just get a sense, use your intuition, but also you just watch their body. If I play a sound that I like and they cringe and they tighten up like this, or you sense in their tissues, if you feel their tissues, the energy, something tightening, or they just, they think you're the devil or something like that. I don't know. You just observe. You have to be there, relax, listen, and observe. And as long as you don't, if they're not tightening or pushing away, or you sense intuitively that basically they're safe with you. You can even ask them questions. How did that sound affect you? All of these things are clinical evaluation skills that I would use, to basically evaluate someone to find out how they're reacting and how they're working with what I'm doing with them.
How do you, Vicky and Gemella, how are you doing it to find out what's the best for your clients?
I think the most important part of sounding, because it's not so much about the sound as the listening. So I need to cultivate how to listen. And I've been a body worker for a long time, and part of it's been movement. So first thing I do is just notice how people are moving in their body, you know, what kind of, you know, where's their weight at in their body? How much support do they have? That starts telling me a great deal. And, but mainly I want to listen. I want to listen to what their body wants to tell me about what sound it wants to receive. And if my listening is as I'm trying to get to that listening, sometimes I'm going to notice, like John was saying, that the body's going to tighten up. It's just like, okay, and it's really small little movement that I have to make with my sound. It's like trying to find out, where is the soft spot? Where is the entrance? How does this person receive? You know, so it's never just a given. It's never just a map. Well, now you do this, this, and this. Mm-hmm. It's all. I think listening is probably one of the most important ingredients, more than this sound or that sound. It's like, and you know, there's ancient ways of listening that people have always used. You know, how did they know which plant to use? Because they would listen to the plant, they would taste it, they would smell it, they would say, oh, it's a square stem, or you know, oh, what color is it? You know. And so it's almost the same with us humans. It's like we're listening. We're listening to what does this liver want today? You know, what's happening in the intestines? What's, you know, it's truly practicing not knowing. Let me come to this body from a place of not knowing. You know, let me trust that let me be in relationship with that which is I've been asked to sound or to treat, instead of me saying, okay, instead of coming with an agenda. I truly believe that our bodies and the bodies we're touching, or the bodies that, you know, we are, is always waiting to see if we will listen. You know, it's like kind of opening a safe, a little bit this way, a little bit that way. You know, it's just not a fixed code.
And when I hear you, I'm looking at you, so I realize that your definition of listening is much larger than we normally have the definition.
It's like that yoga ear. It's like the yoga body. It's like it's a whole ear. It's a whole many kinds of listening. Yeah. Many layers of listening. And actually, I mean, we can put down different ways of listening, and then each person starts finding after a while how they listen, you know. And then I want to have this personal relationship with myself. It's like asking myself directly, how would you have me listen to you? You know? Mm-hmm. And so after a while, we start having like these little encodements that are taught to us.
Gemella, you would like to say something?
I very rarely work with people who are really ill, really unwell. So I kind of escape any possibility to address to the people who come to me as my patients. Usually people who come to me, they come for kind of making a progress or some kind of a change in their life. So maybe this is the kind of fundamental difference of the type of people who end up working with me. What I discovered for myself is when I see people for the first time, not necessarily I want to know a lot of information about them. And usually I just say, okay, we just start working, we keep it quiet. We keep it quiet, and I don't know the situation. I do not want to know the situation. So I just start to communicate on some other level. But what I do from the very beginning, usually I use tuning forks, John's tuning forks, to listen how different intervals sound upon different bodies. And this is, to me, a very interesting, it was a very interesting thing for me, because I discovered that when you have a a human body laying in front of you on the table, and when you make an interval with the tuning fork, on every person, the interval sounds completely differently. And sometimes it's the timing of the sound, sometimes it's a slight differences there. And I am able to recognize this difference. For example, I do remember once I was listening, I do not remember, a fifth or a sixth on making sound on top of a very young lady. And I heard this, slight note which was not right. It was not pure, because usually when the body is in very good condition, intervals, they sound very pure. And this interval was not pure. And I was using tuning forks, and yet something was in kind of a dissonance. And for me, it was like a very small droplet of like a poison, a little bit like a poison. And this is the moment when I started asking person, what is that which kind of poisons your life every day? Everything is good, everything sounds perfect, but this is little drop which keeps coming every day. And this is how, the session can proceed. It doesn't often happens like that, but sometimes the sound of an interval which I make on top of the person can give me the information about this person. Otherwise, I just do it completely intuitively. I just start singing or start singing mantras, and usually some information comes, and just things happen. And in general, I think that the whole concept of healing and the role of the healer is a little bit different, maybe for me personally, because I'm completely convinced that people, they do their job themselves. What we do for them, we just keep, the tiny, little opening of the door. We just, put our foot in the door and keep it open. And the work, it is done without much of our, involvement or influence even. So people who want to have change in their life, they will change. And I think that my role in this process is mostly be an observer of change. That's all. So the change happens, and I just have to observe it and fixate that the change has happened. So that's how I what I think about the whole process.
That's very nice. I like that. Yeah, but also I you should, just by the very fact you observed, there's the healing right there. I mean, you.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, that's what you observe.
The field, the moment you observe, the whole field changes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that subtle.
Yes.
It is.
Yeah, even when you observe the sound of the intervals, the moment you observed it, the whole field changed.
Mm-hmm.
When you're listening, when you're quiet inside, you observe what needs to come to you. That's your intuition. So you're being called to observe that. And when you recognize, when you wake up and know that you're called to observe it, everything changes. The rest of it's, I like to say, the rest of it's entertainment.
It is, yeah. It is kind of a theater, a little bit, yeah. Which is a performance every time. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to get paid. You have to get paid for something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Funny thing, some people who are very eager sometimes to go to normal, usual doctor, let's say, not normal, usual doctor, usual practitioner. They are very afraid of sound healing. They don't understand the mechanics, and they are kind of very reluctant to, what are you gonna do with me? What's gonna change? And I say, yeah, you take every type of medicine, you take these tablets, anything you want, you ingest, you digest, you're not afraid. And here I am with you, with the tuning forks, and all of a sudden you feel very uncomfortable and you're really, really afraid. I do remember a lady, a very young lady. She was, maybe twice my size, very strong and very impressive. And she was trembling, on the table. She was so scared. And what are you afraid of? Because they don't know, they don't understand, and they could feel really uncomfortable with the whole modality. That was funny. yeah, it was a very interesting moment.
I'm working in telehealth as a doctor for New York State. I'm working with COVID patients and families, and basically online also, not in person, online. I'm too high risk to be in the room with them. So, but I work with them online, and these are also people who they're basically blue collar workers. They're people who have no idea of meditation, yoga, anything we talk. They have zero concept of what we're talking about now. And basically, I introduced them to listening. I introduced them to the tuning forks online, and I had teach them how to meditate with the sound and so on. And once I introduce this into their life, everything starts to change. It's just a matter of how I bridge that gap between the way I think about it and the way they think about it. But I'm finding I get unbelievable results online. I do body work online. I do tuning forks online. I do verbal counseling online, nutrition online. It's a whole field. Distance makes no difference, really. It's just, it travels no matter where. And so I think, again, it's just that if we listen, and we don't get thoughts in our mind, distance makes a difference in all of that. We create ways of doing it. Like I said, I have people make circuits like this with their cranium and so on. Then I send the intention through. And I'm finding, in fact, I like the people that know less about the language we're talking about, because they show it works, when you see it work with them in the way they would want to language it, that's all that counts. Yeah, so I'm very happy. I'm so happy going back to work. I don't know why. and this idea of patience, by the way. I mean, who's a patient? We're all patients at some level or another. It's just a matter of beating the language. That's going back for the people. They have to call me a doctor, right? And they're my patients because it makes them feel more comfortable. But I'd be perfectly happy if they called me John. But it's whatever language they want to make them safe is what it amounts to. Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, I had to close my micro because
I like this. We're having fun.
Is it possible, because we have now so many sound healers and we didn't do any sound until now, is it possible to create something now for the participants or for the summit? A kind of sound, a healing sound for the summit and also people here, so that we can create something together?
Well, I don't know how it works over Zoom. I usually use live streaming for that, eCam and stuff.
Okay. But
a lot of it has to do with certain things have to be turned off because Zoom will cut off the microphones. If you go into advanced settings for audio, you'll find that you have to turn these things off in Zoom.
Okay. I was just thinking about years ago, before I started doing audible sound, I did all the sounding silently with people. And I would ask permission from their soul if I could sound it. And because no one wanted sound way back then. I mean, and so I have to keep remembering. And then after I started doing audible sound, I found that more and more people, and especially now, it's so easy compared to what it was when I began. They're so much more open to it, that it's so ancient. It's so ancient in our being that it becomes, if I don't make it special, if I don't make it odd, if I don't make it strange, then people receive it much easier. But if I go, oh, well, this is kind of strange, it might be really weird for you. I'm setting it up so that it is. But if I've always carried it as if it was a very reasonable thing, because for most of my life, I thought that it was. I did not know that it wasn't. So that was helpful. And I've been doing sound work via phone for about 30 years. And I find in some ways it's actually more accurate than having people there. Visual interference, I'm not, they're not having any opinion about me. I'm not having any opinion about them. And I can just go in to what needs to be and to be listened to. But I've always been fascinated about how it's always, nearly always familiar. But it's how I hold it in me as being reasonable. And there's of course many people that would never want what it is that I have to offer. Those are not the people that come to me, you know. So it's a very different time right now of the receptivity to these ancient ways.
So I found it, I put it off.
Oh, good. Perfect. Now we could do sound. And I'm just trying to get, I could do the tuning forks, but I want to, for me, if somebody else wants to do something first, I'm going to try to set up something different just for fun. And so you see me moving around because I didn't expect to do this, but I want to try it. I always want to try new things. So,
That's okay, yeah.
okay. But yeah, so you got to wait for me. Somebody else talk.
Okay. Well, so you have also the tuning forks here, Gemella. So perhaps it works when we all do it together.
Well, I don't use tuning forks.
But you have your voice.
I've only used voice.
And you have great voice. So you
voice,
use your voice.
voice and tap dancing.
Tap dancing might be very effective, actually.
Oh, it is. It's very effective. And because that's how, that was how I first perceived everything, was through rhythm, right? So that's another way of listening, is what is the rhythm? What is the rhythm of that emotion? What is the rhythm that can be received?
Okay.
Do I have to slow down the rhythm to be received? Do I need to speed it up? You know, where does that get to be received?
So
yeah, rhythm to me is the biggest part of the listening.
That's great. So you look really the emotion as the rhythm of an emotion.
Yes, the rhythm of the emotion. When I was a little girl, I used to, I had a tap teacher who took us to all these mental hospitals. That was the venue throughout Missouri, Kentucky, and Southern Illinois to tap dance, or I tap danced for the patients. And it was so wonderful because I could tap the emotional rhythm. I'm so grateful my mother got me tap shoes at a very young age. I don't think I'd be sitting here today because it gave me a way to express what I was perceiving.
Cool.
Yeah. The rhythm of the emotion.
So I learned a lot of another kind of listening, different kind of listening. And it's great and amazing. So you're really opening, all of you are opening our world, and the world of sound is really changing. My world of sound and hearing sound is really changing now. And I'm not sure, perhaps the participant can also write down in the chat how it changed for you. Also wie hat sich das eure Wahrnehmung für Ton verändert? Habt ihr auch Zusatzmöglichkeiten bekommen, wie ihr eben Emotionen hören könnt, den Rhythmus von Emotionen hören könnt, wie ihr überhaupt hören könnt, dass man mit dem ganzen Körper hören kann, dass eben auch fühlen, dass man fühlen hören kann. Ja, schreibt doch mal etwas rein, dass wir so ein bisschen Feedback bekommen. We have on Zoom in the Facebook group, because we streamed in the closed Facebook group. We have a closed Facebook group. So, a person is writing, "Thank you, Vicky, for recognizing the rhythm of emotions." And yeah, that's a feedback.
Andrea, can I ask a question? Yeah?
Yeah, yes, please.
Vicky, I would like to ask you if it is possible. So you travel a lot, and you said that you are listening to different lands, more or less, different big land masses. And I'm always fascinated, what is it in Switzerland which makes this country so special for all of us?
Here I'm also very interested.
Around the whole world, you know, you can run around and look for a very special place. And in Europe, you always land in Switzerland. Always something interesting happens here. So what is very special about the sound of Switzerland?
They can afford us. No. That was awful. I don't think about it in that way. I don't think about it at all in that way. And when I say that I traveled around, it was really when that was my teacher. Those were my teachings. The earth was my teachings. Yeah. So this is when I was a young woman. For at least a decade, all I did was travel and listen to different parts. It was like the earth was teaching me. The earth has always taught me. It is still my major teacher. But that is a good question, but it's not, I think that I don't know. I mean, there are special places but then at the same time, every place becomes special. It's according to how you're listening, right? It's according to how I'm listening. We can make places even more special by deciding that they are. I mean, I was in the Amazon was maybe one of the most special places I've ever been. I've never been in such diversity of plants, and the orchestration truly brought me to my knees, brought me to my belly, and just sobbing because the diversity of the plant world. And I love Zurich, but I don't know that question, or I don't know the answer to that question at all. I know that from the time I arrived there, and first time I ever went to Zurich was when I was at the Jungian Institute in around 1970, 71. And I felt at home. I felt very much at home. But then again, I'm one of those people that I often feel at home wherever I am. So that's why it took me a long time to stay any place. Because I really love this planet. I really love this planet. And I love listening to it. And I love being to places where the Amazon, blessed be that there is still any of it, that it exists at all. Yeah. I don't know if I answered what you were asking.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because, the perception of land masses is also the thing which always interests me. Always. Whenever I travel, I always get in tune with the place where I am. Obviously, there is a resonance with some places, not much resonance with the other places. Somewhere you feel comfortable, somewhere not. Somewhere, literally, the trees talk to you, like in England. England, such place. Because, the trees, the personality of the trees, which you get there, you can nowhere else. But at the same time, in Switzerland, I experienced something really, really unusual, like a direct communication with one of the trees, which grows in Chur, actually. And there is a small park, which is called Fontana Park. And there are big sequoias, which they brought from America there. There are several trees, not many of them. And one of them is particularly, it is very old and very impressive tree. This tree speaks. Yeah, it speaks. Yeah.
I hear you completely.
With you. Yeah.
I hear you completely. One of my biggest teachings, I'm just finishing up a book right now, and I'm telling this story about this tree along when I was by the Baldini Sea down up in northern Switzerland. And it gave me one of the biggest teachings I've ever had. So yes, trees help me mother my child. Trees, yeah. So and there are places where I can't listen. I've gotten very sick at different times listening in certain places because it also holds the energy, right, of whatever has occurred there. So, and then again, it's my listening. It's my do I know this? Do I know this story about it? Is that how I'm interpreting it? You know, so it goes, I have to keep getting more and more and more and more and more honest so that my listening is neutral. You know?
So a person on Facebook means that perhaps it's the yodeling who makes Switzerland special.
There you go. There you go.
Very
And,
I've been coming to Switzerland for 36 years.
Wow.
I've never, this is but 1 year I said I was taking a still point year, and that it didn't work because here I am, I'm Switzerland this way. But basically for me, Switzerland has always held, I would call it a deep sense of mysticism. There's an element in Switzerland that is so profound with Paracelsus. Then you have, of course, the alchemy of Switzerland. Alchemy, I think Switzerland, I think alchemy. I think Carl Jung, I think Paracelsus. I think a history of the, of basically natural healing. So I did a residency at the Berker Brenner Clinic in natural healing. I worked as a biologic doctor. I began to learn about Swiss muesli and all the ways that people eat, the natural eating habits in Switzerland. And I have to say that you don't go to a place for 36 years and teach so many people and be with so many people. It transcends any normal way I could think about what's going on. I can't even imagine. I couldn't even stay in Indiana that long, and that's where I was born. I mean, so I don't even go back there, but I go back to Switzerland. So I was listening to Vicky about the Ozarks. We were probably not far apart. I come from southern Indiana near Louisville.
Absolutely, John.
Yeah, we know the Midwestern. We know that tradition really well.
Yes, exactly. The Ohio River. Mm-hmm.
I have to say I did feel most at home in the Appenzell.
That's great.
I like that. I like that. I liked it better when you had all the nude hikers that were running through the Appenzell. I thought, this is pretty cool. We would never do that in Indiana. I've been running around trying to improvise something at the last second because I could play you tuning forks, but I want to try something different. I've been working with, if it's okay, and we'll do a little experiment. I had to put this mic on because the other.
I'm going to have to go. How long? I'm sorry, it's about noon.
Yeah, Zoom only takes certain types of microphones. So I'm going to just give a short little concert, and hopefully it'll work with this mic. I don't know if that worked, but I tried it.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Did it work? You can hear it?
Great. Perfect.
Yeah. So what I'm playing is I had a piano and it was basically not savable because mice got in it. So I took it all apart, and what you saw is the lyre of the piano.
Mm-hmm.
And I just made it so you could sit in front of it and play it. Anybody can play it. So I like sound healing should be just something that makes sound for everybody. So when the students come, they all love to sit in front of the lyre and play it. They don't need to go to music school to play the lyre. So I basically am like instruments that anybody could pick up and use and improvise and create and just make sound and enjoy sound. So I thought instead of tuning forks, I'd play my piano lyre. But it's harder on Zoom to play it than it is for me to do it when I do live streaming concerts. That it's different.
Sure.
I'm happy it worked. I really worked hard to make that work.
So great. No, thank you. It was perfect. Also the quality.
Yeah, because it's coming through this mic here. Right. This is a wireless mic I could walk around with.
Yeah.
But when I do it if we do a concert live, it's coming through a mixer we've got 17 microphones all over the room. Yeah. But it worked. I'm happy.
Yeah. So there we go.
But for anybody listening, anything that makes sound can be sound healing.
Okay.
It's just a matter of how you approach it and play with it and have fun with it.
Yeah. Somebody's asking, Vicky, would it be possible to listen to some sound of you? Or perhaps it's possible that you sing together, Gemella and Vicky, or that's difficult. I don't know.
Oh no, I think let Vicky, if she wants to sing something.
Well, let me just sing some of our conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just sound some of our conversation that we've had here today.
Yep.
And
Good.
then if when I'm sounding, Gemella, if you hear some of it and you feel all right.
What about, can I make sounds too?
You as well.
I knew I could, Vicky. I just wanted to.
No, John, I'm sorry. You already played.
Well, could I accompany you?
Sure. Jelano masakata ya lebu tutu tonto ta ye bule o ya lo na be se ya lu na we bun she ya lo Shio mama le uselu ale ule Shalom na way Jelo mama leho tuate huele hoye, jelo mohona laho ele wahaya huete, jelo mohona na no mahale huete, jelo mohola heye hele ye, ye, yoma, ehu ye anama. Blessed be, blessed be.
That was so nice.
Yeah, thank you. That's I am also always impressed how you form all this sound with your mouth. That's so amazing. Thank you. So we have talked to a very long time together. We have made music. We heard you yesterday, Gemella. I think we stop now or if you think, no, I have something to say also with sound now, we can do it.
I made some, some rhythm for Vicky. So I kind of contributed to the whole thing.
I heard you.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. I'm just so grateful to be here with all of you. I mean, I haven't seen John in years. I've never met you, Gemella. I'm so grateful. And yeah, I'm glad we're all here. We're all very much needed, you know, to keep shining in, shining in, shining in. Yeah. So thanks for including me in this.
Thank you all for being here for this interesting, amazing, inspiring talk and music talk, listening, I don't know, music sound. I have to change my vocabulary. I feel now the enlargement also in my vocabulary to integrate what I learned this evening. Thank you all, and
So much.
have a good time. And I think we will see us when you are back in Switzerland next year.
I'll be back. Yeah.
You'll be back, John. Great.
Yes, thank you very much.
Also, Vicky.
So much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Blessed be. Good to meet you.
Good to meet you all.
Yeah.
Bye.